Welcome back to the channel, guys. So thanks for everybody for joining last night, for the people that tuned in and the panelists. Absolutely fantastic. I sort of lost my voice, but I'm going to give you my reaction. What I witnessed last night, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know what to say. I slept on it. I barely slept last night thinking about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I got very little sleep. I'm heading out today for a Halloween party, and I'm going to be thinking about it while I'm at the Halloween party. What did we witness last night? What did we see last night? We seen a part of combat sports history, a part of boxing history, because I'm going to give Francis Ngannou the credit here. I give this guy no chance. 20 seconds, 20, 30 seconds. If it lasts more than one round, it's a win for Francis Ngannou, even if he gets knocked out in the second. That's what I said. What we witnessed last night was boxing history. Not only is Francis Ngannou absolutely lethal with 4-ounce gloves in an MMA cage with grapplers, jiu-jitsu artists, kickboxers, Muay Thai artists, Sambo experts, he's also absolutely fantastic in the boxing ring when it's limited to hands, because that's what that was last night. Make no mistakes about that. Make no mistakes about that. Last night, we took away, well, Francis Ngannou signed away most of his arsenal to fight. And he limited himself to hands in a boxing match. And he put on what I would say as an absolute clinic. Now, as a boxer, was it perfect? No, because I'm gonna have to critique him now as a boxer. As a boxer, no, it wasn't perfect, because I have to now say, well, he has the skill set and he has the ability to get into the ring with the greatest heavyweight boxer in our generation, Tyson Fury, and stand toe to toe with him and actually, in some people's opinion, win that fight. Now, I have to watch it back, and I specifically haven't watched it back because I want you to see my emotional reaction, not my logical reaction. I'll do an actual fight reaction to this during the week. But emotionally, I would say Francis Ngannou won that fight. He won that fight, didn't he? Maybe am I thinking something silly here? But he went in there and he put damage upon Tyson Fury, the greatest heavyweight boxer of our generation. Usyk was in the crowd looking. He was afraid. He was saying to himself, please, Tyson, knock this guy out. Win. Don't be letting this go to points, because as it stands from the crowd here, you're losing. You're circling into his power shot. He's countering that with the left. He put you to the ground. He can switch the southpaw. His upper body movement's fantastic. And what I will say is his footwork isn't the best. But that's because he wasn't a boxer prior to this. He was always in MMA. He was a boxer in his younger career whenever he traveled to France, and he was homeless. But this, what we seen last night, was something else. I'm trying to understand what happened. I'm even saying things to myself like, was this set up for Fury to sort of set up a second fight with Francis Ngannou after the Usyk fight in December? Is that what this is? If that's what it is, okay, fair enough. I get that. Entertainment business. But it wasn't. Fury went out there to do damage on Francis Ngannou. And he did do damage on Francis Ngannou. But with the people who love boxing like myself, who love combat sports, but understand that the differences between boxing and MMA, would say, well, if an MMA guy comes in, he's not going to last a round with the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. But Francis Ngannou did, and he went the distance and arguably won that fight. Boxing's a dirty sport. Boxing is a dirty, dirty sport. But let's forget about that. Let's forget about that. Francis Ngannou is a legitimate contender in the heavyweight boxing. What did I just say there? After last night, Francis Ngannou is a legitimate contender in the heavyweight boxing division. Who would have ever thought that that would be a thing? Yeah, sure, we've seen him with the 4-ounce gloves knocking out Alistair Overeem and putting Alistair Overeem into the nether world. We've seen that. We've witnessed that. We've seen him having the bad ones with Derek Lewis, and they didn't really want to throw a punch because the pressure was on him from the UFC. And guess what? The UFC are the biggest losers out of all of this, because all the UFC had to do was, okay, Francis, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a contract and we're going to allow you to box in the heavyweight division and maybe set up a fight with Francis Ngannou. And also, that will raise your profile and raise ours. But no, Dana White didn't want to do that. And here's the reasons. The reasons Dana White didn't want to do that, because he didn't want to create another McGregor. And here's where he was wrong, because Francis Ngannou is more humble than Conor McGregor. He's came from more humble beginnings. Everybody says, McGregor's this guy who had nothing when he grew up. McGregor had a lot compared to most people around him. That was a story that was sold to sort of raise his profile from nothing to something. Now, Dana White should have give him a new contract with big money, and also in that contract allowed him to box. And at the same time, he would have been able to fight in MMA and boxing. This guy, in my opinion, what you're witnessing here, a lot of people are going to say, Ronan, now you're too emotional. And you're probably right. I'm going to reflect on this, but this is how I feel right now. Francis Ngannou right now is the greatest athlete on planet Earth. For the simple reason is this guy isn't a boxer. He was an MMA, and he wasn't the best MMA artist. He was known for his wild swinging punches, no technical ability when it came to punching, just powerful punches. What we seen last night was he had his guard up. He had not the best footwork, but good footwork for somebody who's not a boxer. His upper body movement was absolutely out of this world. He understood Tyson Fury's game plan. He understood that Tyson Fury was circling into his power shot, which left him for the left. He could counter with the left, and that's what he done. Hence how he got Tyson to the ground. Tyson Fury didn't know what to do. Now, in a second fight, I think Tyson Fury would probably say, well, we're dealing with a legitimate boxer here, so we're going to have to implement a correct game plan to counter everything he has, because we've seen the first one, so this is what we'll have to do for the second one. And there's going to be a second one probably in spring next year. I would say that would be the best, or maybe summer next year. But I'm still in shock. I still don't know what to say. I'm still thinking to myself, how did that happen last night? Let's talk about the UFC. The UFC's lost out here. The UFC have just let their biggest star walk out through the front door and become a free agent. And now that massive superstar has just went toe-to-toe with the greatest, arguably the greatest heavyweight in our generation, Tyson Fury, went the distance. Some people says he won the fight, and he's still a free agent. You better bet your bottom dollar one championship's going to come in here, because they're multi-discipline promotion. PFL's going to come in. I think you'll probably, if there's going to be an MMA promotion he'll go to, he'll probably be one championship, because they can represent him in boxing too, the PFL. But he's not going to go back to the UFC. The UFC is going to have to double their offer, what they offered him in the first place. They're going to have to think about an offer and then quadruple it. And then, even then, they're going to still have to have boxing in that contract. And here's where you're going to get an exodus. You're going to get an exodus of MMA where people are going to go, well, hold on, Francis Ngannou wasn't the most technically gifted boxers. I'm in the shit UFC contract. Maybe I should go fight somebody, maybe in the lower weights, because there's so many weights in boxing. I'm going to leave boxing and I'm going to do this too, because if Francis Ngannou can do that, I can do that. And do you know what, Dana White? Stick your UFC contract up your arse. I'm going out and I'm going to box. I'm going to have 2 or 3 fights with the UFC. And let's talk about why Francis Ngannou left the UFC. One of the things he said on, I think it was the Joe Rogan podcast, he said, I left the UFC because they kept putting extensions onto my contract. So if I refused to fight because I was injured, or the fight that they offered me was too low ranked, they had the ability to extend my contract by 6 months. And they done that every time. And to me, whenever I asked for them to take that out, that was the pivotal moment where I had to say, look, I don't want a new contract when the time came. So the UFC are in a sticky situation here because there's going to be a lot of people saying to themselves, well, hold on, I'm up in my contract. I've got a bit of clout. You've got, you know, you've got all different fighters that can do that. So the UFC have found themselves backed up into a corner. And for the first time in Dana White's UFC career, he has lost big style here. He has lost. Without a shadow of a doubt, he looked at that last night and he went into the bathroom and he punched himself 6 times and cracked his head off the mirror and says, what the fuck did I just do? I'm the biggest idiot in combat sports. You've just outdone Oscar De La Hoya, dressed as a woman, sniffing baby powder. That's what you've done, Dana. Because you didn't want to create another McGregor, but you weren't creating another McGregor because he wouldn't have turned out that way. Yes, he would have been this, that, and the other, but guess what? Francis Ngannou isn't a cokehead. Francis Ngannou isn't an egotistical fool. Francis Ngannou loves the sweet science. Francis Ngannou has respect for both disciplines. McGregor doesn't. Well, he does when it comes to the disciplines, but he's an egotistical asshole that's just whacking massive amounts of baby powder up his nose. You can create a monster with that egotistical fool, but you can't create a monster with Francis Ngannou. You can create a monster in the sense that he will become a vicious combat sports athlete and stay at that. But Francis Ngannou, as it stands, is the greatest athlete on planet Earth right now. Multi-discipline, can box with the greatest heavyweight, arguably the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time, and go into the MMA cage and knock out some of the greatest in MMA history. That is, in my opinion, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and he will go down accordingly. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Ronan, what are you talking about here? Because Tyson Fury had an off night. I don't give a fuck. Tyson Fury should be able to have the flu, a broken leg, and dementia, and still be able to go in there with the limited knowledge that he would have at the time and put on a boxing clinic against Francis Ngannou. He wasn't able to do that even when he was not at par. I get that. He wasn't at par. He wasn't at his best. But guess what? That doesn't make a difference. Everybody thought this was going to be a sparring match, but it wasn't. We just watched boxing history, and this is the greatest thing for MMA, because now we can say, well, the MMA guys can cut it with the big dogs. Yes. But Dana White also lost, and the UFC lost out here. And that's my initial reaction to it. I'll do a full reaction to the whole fight during the week. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. My stream got took down. My live stream got took down for copyright reasons, for music that I used at the start that I was aware that I was under the impression that it was non-copyright music. So the stream's been took down. The Bundesliga took it down, of all people. But anyway, regardless, if you want to watch that full stream, it's on my Rumble. The link for that can be found in the description. You can head over and watch that. Now, it was a good night. Mad respect to all the people that joined the panel and everybody that tuned in. On Rumble, there was lots of people. There was 100 people tuned in Rumble. And I only have like 120 followers. And there was a good amount of people on YouTube. So mad respect to everybody on those platforms that tuned in. I appreciate every single one of you. If you can do me a favor here, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share, copy link the clipboard, make a little social media post, send to a friend on Facebook or WhatsApp Messenger. Sharing is caring, spreading the word is good. That is my emotional reaction. You'll get my logical reaction throughout the week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Peace.